Welcome everyone to the School Improvement Institute webinar for Update 1 and Update 2 schools. The focus of this webinar is intervention implementation. My name is Sue Reynolds and I am president of the American Student Achievement Institute. Okay, so for many of you, this is your first webinar as an update school. And so we just wanted to help you understand who all is involved in the call. So just as a reminder, there are actually 4 different curricula that we use with SI2 schools. So the first one is the startup curriculum. For many of you, you were a startup school last year. For some of you, you were a startup school in 1997, a long time ago. So, and during that startup year, you created your initial school improvement plan. So none of you now that are listening to this webinar and participating in this webinar, none of you are startup schools. You have now moved on to our update status. And that means that you're going to take the school improvement plan that you designed during your startup year, and then each year you will update the school improvement plan to become the next year's school improvement plan. So we have participating in this call Update 1 schools, Update 2, and Update 3. So our curriculum is a 3-year cycle. So if you were a startup school last year, so you wrote your first school improvement plan with us last year, then this year you are an Update 1 school. And as a Update 1 school, what you'll do is the special task that you have this year is to convene your council and your student body. You'll implement the school improvement plan, and then second semester we're going to update goals, root causes, and interventions. So a lot of you are Update 2 schools, which means that you're in the second year of our update cycle. And that means that you started the process somewhere between 1997 and 2014. You are going to implement your school improvement plan this year, and then you're updating goals, root causes, and interventions. Then in the third year of the cycle, which we do not have any Update 3 schools participating with us in this webinar, but just looking ahead, when you get to the third year of our cycle, then you'll conduct your surveys again, and instead of updating just goals, root causes, and interventions, you'll also will update your vision statement. So basically what that means is that every 3 years you're updating the surveys and you're updating the vision. So, and then after you're a cycle or an Update 3 school, then you'll go back the next year and become an Update 1 school. So you just keep going through those 3 years. So, and again, that's because each year is a little bit different, but predominantly you're all the same as Update schools because you are all going to update your goals, root causes, and interventions. And that's why with these webinars we convene all of the update schools together because so much of what you're doing is the same. Also, it allows us to keep our costs down by sharing really the expenses of these webinars between many schools and not just a few schools. Okay, so steering team task for October. All schools are going to be updating your steering team. And all schools are going to be doing a kickoff of interventions with your council. And then as I mentioned, if you're an Update 1 school, so you started working with us last year, you'll convene your school improvement council. We'll give you a video to help you do that. And you'll create a structure for getting input from your student body, and we'll also give you another video to help you get started with that. And then if you're an Update 2 school, you'll update your school improvement council, and we'll give you some resources for doing that as well. So, but pretty much everybody's doing the same thing. We're all getting started, and then second semester we're all going to update your school improvement plan. Okay, so this year's format, this is a little different. If you are an Update 2 school, so you've been working with us for quite a long time, this is going to look a little new to you. So in these webinars that we're having, like the one we're doing right now, each webinar this year is going to have 2 parts. The first part is going to be the actual presentation for your school improvement council. And so I'll do that presentation as though I were talking to the council, and then you can take that video and show it to your council, or it will be available for your council to download and look at So we're going to do that first. In the council video, there will be content, there will be instructions for what we need the council to do, and then there will be discussion prompts. So that'll be part one of these webinars. Then part two will be very short. We're just going to do a few announcements and updates. We'll do some leadership tips, we'll tell you what the student body prompt is for that month, and then we'll take any questions that you have. Sometimes in part two, if there's something that we just need to say to update 1 schools, we might dismiss the update 2 schools and let them, sign out, and then we'll just go on with the update 1 schools. And that's actually going to happen today. We're going to let the update 2 schools go a little early, and then we'll finish up with the update 1 schools. So after the webinar, and I see I have a typo there, sorry about that. After the webinar, you have a couple of options. The preferred option is to convene your council to watch the video that we are giving you to show your council, and then hold the discussion that that video supports. An additional option is to have your council members watch the video individually, and then they will submit feedback to the school improvement team or to the steering team using an online format. What we are not going to have this year, so if you've been working with us for a number of years, what we're not going to do this year is the online discussions. We found last year that not a lot of you use that, so we've tried to again streamline the council discussions, but if you choose to just have the online part and not do the face-to-face meetings with your council, there won't be any discussions. You'll get input, but each of your council members will not be able to see what other council members are saying. So if we want that discussion, we're going to have the face-to-face meetings. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay, so at this point I'm going to start the presentation for the council. This will set up the discussion, and you'll get to hear also as a steering team member, what we're asking the council to do, and then you'll be meeting with the council to do that. So Tina, this is the time where we want to record the time so that our staff can tease out this section to make into a separate video. Okay.
Ready.
Okay, here we go. And okay, so we'll start. Welcome everyone to the School Improvement Council video prompt for the discussion on intervention kickoff. My name is Sue Reynolds, and I'm president of the American Student Achievement Institute. So we want to welcome all the council members that are watching this video, and thank you for participating on your school's School Improvement Council. We know that you're doing that because you care about kids and you care about education, and we're really excited about involving you in the discussion of school improvement along with your teachers and your students. So really pleased to have all the council members, the community members, the teachers, everyone who's serving as part of your School Improvement Council with us today. So first of all, let's just look at very quickly, what is the role of a council member? So your role is basically to do 3 things. To care about your community's young people, which I assume that you do, or you probably wouldn't be on the council. And then you'll review student and school data that will be presented to you by your steering team and as part of these videos. And then you'll provide input from your perspective. So we've asked your steering team to create quite a broad-based group of people to serve on your council. We know that there's business people, there's teachers, there's maybe your community foundation, maybe your mental health association, local government, economic development, your mayor's office. So we've got quite a wide variety of people. And among your parents, we have parents of maybe 6th graders and 7th graders or 3rd graders or 12th graders. So quite a diverse group of parents as well. And then also with your teachers, every teacher in the building is part of the council. So we know we have a large group and a very diverse group of opinions. So your job on the council is to represent your perspective. So if you are a Hispanic parent, it would be your job to represent the Hispanic parent view. If you are a parent um, um, of a student who's going to go on to an apprenticeship program after high school, then you would be representing that view on your council. So, okay, so you'll be providing input from your perspective. And then this semester, our focus is going to be on implementing the current school improvement plan. And then second semester, you'll be involved in creating next year's school improvement plan. So, okay, so that's your role kind of in a nutshell. So let's look at this year. Um, Actually, let's start by seeing where we're coming into this year. Let's look at last year for a minute. So we know that your school right now has a school improvement plan that's going to direct your activities in this school year. And just a reminder or just a heads up on how that school improvement plan was developed. We asked your school improvement council last year, or those that were involved in writing your school improvement plan last year, what is our idealistic dreams for students and schools, and then that became the vision statement that's in your improvement plan. We asked, where do we want achievement to be a year from now? That became the SMART goals in your school improvement plan. We asked, what is getting in the way of our achievement goals, of your achievement goals? That became the root causes in your improvement plan. And then we said, okay, so what can we do to alleviate these things that are getting in the way, these root causes? And that became the interventions in your school improvement plan. So you have right now a school improvement plan that has the main components of which are those four things: vision, goals, root causes, and interventions. You also have an intervention preparation plan. So your steering team last year said, okay, for these interventions, are we going to need professional development? And if so, what's that going to look like? Are we going to want to study data around that intervention? And if so, let's get our baseline data. Are we going to need resources? Are we going to need money to implement these interventions? And so there's a plan in place to get all the things you need to make sure that your interventions are wildly successful. So basically, the bottom line is that the school improvement plan that was written last year now needs to be implemented fully and with integrity. Because if that school improvement plan just sits on the shelf, it was a waste of time. Or if that school improvement plan gets implemented by some teachers but not all teachers, or if it gets implemented by teachers or parents, and it's a half-hearted implementation, it's not going to have the impact that we want it to have. So your job first semester as a council and as a steering team is to make sure that these interventions hit the ground running and that they're done really well. Okay, so that this year, that's what we're going to do this semester. In October this year, the very first discussion we're going to have, which is what we're doing right now, is we're going to ask you in a minute, what can we each do, what can you each do to support each intervention's implementation? What can you personally do? So you may be a parent, you may be the Chamber of Commerce person, you may be from your public library, you may be, the kindergarten teacher. So, but we want you to think about, for each of your interventions, what can you do to make sure that that intervention gets into place and it's going to be implemented well. And it might be, if it's a math intervention, it might be, if you're the math teacher, you're going to say, I'm going to teach this stuff. But if you're a parent, it might be that you're going to ask your child, have they taught this yet? We know it's coming. So there, there's just all kinds of things that you can do. If you're a business, you might be looking at, where can I help the teacher to see real-world applications for that academic content that they're trying to teach. So we want you to each think about, what can I do, what can we do to help really support the successful implementation of this intervention. Then we'll spend all semester implementing. Then in December, we're going to meet with you again. And the question that time will be, what evidence do you see that indicate that the intervention is having the desired impact on the adult practices? Remember, all of our interventions are designed to impact adult practices. We think that we have to change adults before students will change. So what evidence do we have that the adults are implementing the intervention then, and that it's being implemented well and fully? So, and what evidence do we see that the adults are changing, based on, that'll be different based on whatever the intervention is. So we'll do that in December. We're going to evaluate your interventions and then make some in-flight adjustments if we need to. Okay, then second semester, we'll start writing your school improvement plan for next year. So in January, the question is going to be, based on what we know now, do we need to update our goals? So we'll bring in new updated student achievement data, and then we're going to just say, do we need to change our goals in our school improvement plan, or is this still good and we can just keep what we have? If you reach a goal, you might decide to dump it and not do that goal anymore. Or if you exceeded a goal and now you want to set the target higher, you might just tweak your goals. So, but it's always the question is, based on what we know now, what should that look like in our school improvement plan for next year? In February, same thing. Based on what we know now, do we need to update our root causes, the things that are interfering with reaching your goals? And then in March, based on what we know now, do we need to update our interventions? So, and again, that's looking at your interventions and omitting some or adding new ones or tweaking the ones we have. So, okay, so that's the kind of the overview of the year. It's going to be 5 discussions with you as council members. Your steering team will invite you to meetings, and then they'll toss out the inquiry questions. They'll give you data to look at, sometimes ahead of the meetings, and then you'll all get together and just chat about what the answers to those questions are. Okay, so that's the year in a nutshell. So today, here's what we want to do. So we want to discuss the question that we mentioned earlier: what is each council member going to do to support the successful implementation of each intervention? So as I mentioned before, there's 2 ways to have this discussion. Some of you are probably sitting right now in a room face-to-face with all the council members, and you're getting ready to have that discussion face-to-face. So that's great. That's going to go well. The benefit of that is that you get to hear what everybody else has to say, and that really fosters creativity and thinking outside of the box and collaboration, and there's just a lot of benefit of having those face-to-face conversations. In some schools, for a variety of reasons, face-to-face discussions are not possible. And in those schools, if you are in one of those schools, your steering team has sent you a link, and you actually have opened this presentation up in a website. And what you're going to do is type your responses into a text box. So if you are just having the discussion online, again, if you're a council member in one of those schools, your council sent you an email, you clicked on the link in the email, you opened this page. So again, if you are in one of those schools that's only doing online input, or if you're in doing in-person discussion, here's what that email looked like that you got. So the system, our SI2 system, sent you an email, and it said, okay, we're getting ready for our intervention kickoff in the email. It said, we are going to have an in-person meeting. Here's the date and the time and all that. So, or if you were not having an in-person meeting, this was left out of the email and it just went down here, online input, and you just clicked this link to take you to the place where you could put your input about the inquiry question. Okay, now if you are having your meeting face-to-face, we also gave you access to this online input, because if you're having face-to-face meetings but one month you're unable to come, you have a conflict, then we still want you to go to this online input as an absent member of the face-to-face in-person meeting. Still go to this online input, click that, and then enter your thoughts. That way your steering team not only knows what the people at your meeting talked about, but they know what how the absent people feel about the inquiry question. Okay, so that's how that works. If you are doing this online, so when you click that link, this is the page that you came to, and basically it said watch the council video. Here's where you click to do it on our YouTube channel. Then it said review this report, and there's a link to the report, and then answer the questions below the video, and you would just go down here and answer them. Okay, so when you click this report, just a heads up, it looked like this. This was just a list of all of your school's interventions. And so what you need to do is just go through each one individually and say, you know, how can I help with the attendance and discipline policy? And then, you know, read that and think, how can I help? And then type that in here. How can I help with chunking research papers or projects? So, and you know, maybe there's not a way that you can help with some of these, but look at each one, and even if it's as a parent, all you're going to do is, you know, not all you're going to do is very important. You're going to talk to your child about it. That's really important too. You know, that's a really important support for the intervention. And if you're a business, really start to think out of the box. One of my favorite interventions from a business was from a pizza shop that, well, I don't remember what the intervention was, but what the pizza shop did right before the intervention was going to be implemented, they wrote on the outside of all their pizza boxes something about that intervention, and they were delivering it, you know, to kids in the community or families in the community with a note about the intervention written on the pizza box. So, you know, we're really trying to look at how do we make this systemic change. So as a business, you know, what can you do to support each one of these interventions? So, okay. Okay, so after today, after the steering team has all of that input, then they will, and everybody will be implementing all the things they said they were going to do to support those interventions. And then in December, the council, you guys, will reconvene. You'll study follow-up data that will help you determine the degree to which the intervention was implemented and the impact of the intervention on the targeted adult practice. So we'll look at all of that in December. That means that you have between now and December to make sure that those interventions just really hit the ground running and that they're implemented fully and with integrity. It's not just lip service, but we're actually rolling up our sleeves and we're getting it done. And then also in December, you, the council members, will make recommendations regarding in-flight adjustments to the interventions as they go on through the rest of the school year. Okay. And that's it. So I want to thank you as council members. If you're listening to this in person, what you'll need to do now is this will be the end of the video, and then you'll need to discuss each of your interventions and talk about who's going to do what. And then if you're doing this on the input page online, you would just go to that input page, look at each of the interventions, and then type into that box what you can do to support that intervention. Okay, thank you very much, and we'll close the council meeting now. Okay, Tina, you need to take the time down, if you will, so we can let our staff know how to edit this video.
Okay, done.
So now we're to part 2, which is just tips and stuff for the steering team to help you implement this first meeting. Okay, here's some tips. So first of all, some of you, when you go to the process page, this is what you're going to see, and what that means is that you have not yet subscribed to SI2 for the coming year. So don't forget to do that. This is how you do it. You just go to our website, asainstitute.org/SI2, and then that arrow there is pointing to the renewal thing, and just click that and then fill it out and then submit it. We know we've talked to a couple of schools that have told us that they're not able to subscribe yet because they have to have a board meeting. If that's the case, and because we need this process page to be live for you, if that's the case, if there's some really good reason why you can't subscribe at this point, but you are going to be able to subscribe prior to December, give Tina a call and we can make this page live for you even though you haven't subscribed, but we'll just do that on an individual basis. So, okay. Then you have some decisions that you need to make as a steering team. The first one is, how are you going to gather input from your council? Are you going to have in-person discussions, or are you going to have online input only? We really, really recommend the in-person discussion. We know that having those discussions is like majorly key to having a strong school improvement plan. So I really encourage you to do that. then you'll need to talk about, when are you going to have those meetings? It's going to be during the school day. It's going to be after school, at night. If it's over the dinner hour, is there a restaurant in town that will donate, pizza for you or whatever? So you need to be talking about how are you going to have those in-person discussions. We have had schools do 2 in-person discussions, one during the day and one at night, so that everybody can be involved. Sometimes it's a little easier to get your teachers involved during the right after school or during the school day if you have professional development time. But your community folks can't come until night, so it's okay to duplicate this meeting. That would be okay. Not ideal, but if that's going to work for you, that's fine. And then if you're doing it online only, again, we don't recommend that because there's not going to be any discussion. No one will be able to see each other's comments. So that's just not a good thing. But we also understand that for some of you, having in-person meetings just is not possible. So it's better than no input, but it's not nearly as strong as having face-to-face meetings. All of our face-to-face meetings are designed to be 2-hour meetings. That allows enough time for discussion. However, we do have schools that break those into 2 one-hour meetings. So instead of meeting once during the month, they'll meet twice during the month, and they'll have shorter meetings. Most community people tell us that they would like to come in for one longer meeting. But again, especially if you are an Update 1 school, you just started last year, you may need to talk about that and experiment with it. And if one model doesn't work for you, then try another one. So, okay. So that's the first decision. How are you going to get input from your council? And then the second decision is how are you going to gather input from every student? I know if you're an Update 2 school, you probably have a system in place that's working very well. You may need to revisit that if it's not working as well as you would like it to. And if you're an Update 1 school, you're doing this for the first time. So how are you going to have these small group discussions? Are you going to meet in person with the kids and actually break kids in the small group? We call those whole school breakouts, and normally what will happen in schools is that one for the first discussion they'll say, okay, we're going to have this discussion for 20 minutes during period 2. And then for the next discussion they'll say, okay, we're going to have this discussion for 20 minutes during period 3. So, we need to, or maybe you have an advisor-advisee period or a homeroom period that you can use, or, just how can we have discussions with the kids. So then another decision, if you're going to use group discussions, is do you want those discussions to be facilitated by teachers or by students? Most of our schools do student-facilitated discussions. That we found works really well. It puts students in a leadership position. Part of the materials that we have for you are designed for you to use to train student facilitators. So if you're thinking about students, which students do you want to use? A student council, honor society members, a service club, um, or do you want to put together a group of emerging leaders? In my school years ago when we first did this, we kind of handpicked students that we thought were leaders, and we wanted to develop them. I don't know how to say this. We handpicked students that had leadership potential, and they could become negative leaders or positive leaders. So we use this to kind of steer them into becoming positive leaders, and it was really great. I can think of several students that I think that this was a kind of a turning point in their lives. So kind of be thinking about that. If it's facilitated by students, another thing to think about is in most of our schools where it's student facilitated, the teacher in that classroom will stand in the doorway or a little bit out in the hall. So they're there just in case things get out of control, but they're giving the students the perception that this is their discussion, that this is not an adult discussion, it's a kid discussion, and it's just kids talking to kids. So that's probably how most of our schools do that, is they'll take 20-30 minutes for each of these discussions with the student body. Okay, then the other option is to turn the prompt into a writing assignment. And again, then you can link it with standards and use it as an academic assignment. So that's another option. Okay, then the second part, very important, and as we looked at a lot of the Update 2 schools, this is something we'd like you to really refocus on this year. And then, of course, for the Update 1 schools, it'll be for the first time. How are you going to let students know that you heard their voice? That's really important. If kids understand that you're hearing them, they're going to engage in the discussion. If they never know if you really heard them or you never really did anything with their input, they'll disengage. So how are you going to let the students know that you heard them? How are you going to let them hear responses from other small groups maybe that they weren't in? So one way that schools have used is they'll take, during the discussion, they'll have maybe one student facilitating the discussion and another student being the scribe, and that student will just write down all the ideas on a flip chart paper that came up in their small group. And then after the discussion, they take those flip chart papers and they post them in the hallway. I really like that. I think then when kids are walking up and down the hallway and here's all these flip chart papers all over the place, it really gives them the sense that this was a whole school discussion. Schools have told us that they'll see kids stop and read other kids' responses. They'll see teachers stop and read responses. So I just think that's a real energy building way to let kids know that they've been heard. And other schools have told us that they'll have one or two students, I'm sorry, that on the morning announcements on the PA, they'll just share one or two students' input, just to let them know, we had that discussion earlier this week, and, Jane Doe thought that, blah, 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 or in one of the groups it was stated that, blah, blah, blah. So, and then in some, again, this could be a writing assignment, is that somebody has looked at all the responses and done and written a summary report that becomes published in the student newspaper. So yeah, so lots of different things. We think, we have to look at how we're going to gain that input, and then how are we going to let kids know that they've been heard. One other thing, in the first discussion, if there's anything that comes up from the kids that you can do quickly, and you do it and you let the kids know that you did it, you're going to have those kids in the palm of your hand for the rest of this. For example, in one of our schools, the kids, I don't know how it came up, but they said, we would like more ketchup in the cafeteria. So the next day, they got on the staff got on the PA and they said, we heard during this discussion that you'd like more ketchup, and we just want to let you know that that's going to start today. And all of a sudden those kids are going like, oh my gosh, they're hearing us, and they engage in the discussions. The student voice is so important in this. Kids know what they need, what needs to happen to raise student achievement. They're not going to use the same vocabulary that we use. They're not going to say differentiated instruction, but they're going to describe differentiated instruction. So we want to make sure that this kid voice, student voice, is involved. Okay, so before you have your discussions, either in person or online, we want to make sure that you have copies of the interventions report ready, and that you've set dates for all 5 meetings, so that you can distribute the dates to the council at the first meeting. Same thing online. We want to make sure that the council discussion point person is accurate in the system, because in the email that comes out it says if you have any questions about this, contact, and then that person's name will be listed. And then also set the window, or set the dates for all 5 discussions, and then email those dates to your council. So, okay. In terms of your dates for the discussions, here's the 5 discussions. Your discussion needs to happen after the webinar, where you'll be trained on how to do it. And then we'd like you to be finished a week before the drop dead deadline, so that Tina has an opportunity to look at your work and review it before we get to the next webinar. So you can see, if you're an Update 1 school that started with us last year, this is not nearly as rushed as it was last year when we were doing everything in just 1 semester. So it's basically 1 activity a month. And yeah, so it should be a lot more relaxed, and we're also just updating this year instead of starting from scratch. So for Update 1 schools, this is going to be a lot nicer, I think. Also, I did put in, we do have a webinar on October 26th. This does not involve the council, but we're going to be talking about updating your data in the system. So those are the dates. Okay, student body prompt. So if you are the student body point person, it's your job on the steering team. It's your job to make sure that the student body has this discussion. So here's what you would do if you are the student body point person on your team. You're going to distribute a list of your main interventions to all students. And then each intervention will be explained. So on that report, the intervention summary report, it has the title of the intervention and the description. So we want to pass out either the whole report or maybe just 3 or 4 of your main interventions. And then we're going to ask the kids, or the kids could ask each other, what could students do to help this intervention be successful? So and kids will say things like pay attention in class or turn our homework in or, or whatever. So we're doing this for 2 reasons. One purpose of asking this question to the kids is that they do play a role in making sure the interventions get implemented well. So, and we want them to understand that they have a role, just like teachers have a role to teach, they have a role to learn. And we're trying to kind of tease that out here. The other thing is that the interventions, when they begin to happen, in the back of the kid's mind, they'll be thinking, oh yeah, we remember that intervention was new and it's going to happen in our Algebra 1 class, and yeah, we said we were going to really pay attention on that part. So when they start to see the intervention in practice, the light bulb will go off that they had some input in talking about how to implement that intervention. So that's very, very healthy. And then one tip, especially if you're in a lower elementary school or in a school with lower elementary students, feel free to change the language of the prompt to be grade level specific. So we're giving you one prompt, but you'll need to kind of reword it so that it works well for your kids. Okay, so real quickly, let's walk through the online system. And I am logged in as an Update 1 school, and I'm on the process page. So, and let me just show you real quickly. Here is an update. Let me go back because I don't want to confuse you. Okay, so if you're an Update 1 school, when you log in, you're going to see the process page looks like this, but now the Update 1 tab is highlighted. And if you're an Update 2 school, it's going to have the Update 2 tab highlighted. Your processes are almost exactly the same, especially after this meeting. The only difference this time is that with the Update 1 schools, we need to create the council and the student body structure. So, okay, so I just want to look through here. The video that we're recording right now will be here. This is really important for everybody. Update 1 and Update 2 have this step. So we're going to update the school improvement plan uses. Click on enter. Really important. And just we want to check all these that apply. So do you want to use your school improvement plan for Indiana rules and regs? And then are you title, annual measurable objective, and then how many teachers in the building and how many students in your building. Remember, this is the page that customizes your website, so it's got to be accurate. So please, please, please make sure that you've updated that at the beginning of this year. So, and then submit when you're ready for Tina to kind of look over your shoulder and kind of make sure that we're in agreement that it is what you say it is. But the onus on that, the responsibility for making sure that that page is accurate is on you. Okay, then we're going to update steering team members. So we're going to click on enter, and we'll just take anybody off, remove people that are no longer on your steering team, or add a new person for ones that are on. Then we're going to update the steering team positions, and you'll just look at the different positions and then say who's going to fulfill that position. And don't forget, especially in the Update 1 schools, that you will now have student body discussions and council discussions. So the council point person makes sure that the meetings happen. The council consensus point person creates the product with the steering team after the discussion and then sends it out for consensus. We'll talk more about that later as we get into some of those decisions. And then the student body point person does the student body meetings, make sure that that happens. So just make sure that all of those are accurate. And then who's the primary contact, and then review the rubric items, and then make sure you're submitting all this stuff. Okay, in a minute after we dismiss the Update 2 schools, we'll talk about convening the Improvement Council and establishing the student body format. Okay, so that's it for the updating the organizational structure. Then intervention kickoff. Watch the video, council video, watch the steering team video. So this video that we're recording right now as I speak is going to be separated into 2 different videos. Distribute to your council the intervention summary. Then this next part is really important. I want to make sure everybody understands this. You need to open the discussion. So I'm going to click this button, and we're going to open the discussion, and at the top it just kind of explains all that stuff. And then this is where you're going to customize the email that the system sends out to all of your council members. Will you have an in-person discussion as well as the online input? Yes. And then if you say yes, the date, the time, the location. So that'll automatically put that into the email for you. Or tell us no, in-person meeting, online input only. Online input will open when you click the Send Invitation button. When do you want the discussion to close? So at that point, the steering team will be able to look at all the responses and summarize them, but we need to know when do you want the system to close the discussion. Okay, and then just a note, work is due at the end of the month. You'll need some time to review all the work prior to completing the month's tasks. So you don't want to put the close date on your deadline to us. I would put it like, I don't know, a couple weeks before your deadline to us. And then click this Send Invitation, and out it will go. Okay. Please also make sure that all of the email addresses in your council roster are accurate, because if they're inaccurate, they're not going to get that email. Okay, so we're opening the discussion. Don't forget that you can monitor the discussion. We haven't sent it out yet, the emails, so this is not live yet on the schools. But once you've opened the discussion, you'll be able to see how many people have participated in the discussion, who they represent. So this just gives you some data to let you know how the discussion is going online. If you're not using face-to-face meetings, this is really important. It's the only way you know if people are engaging. So make sure you look at that. Then this is review council online input. This is just a report of what everybody said in the online input. Enter the council discussion summary. So that's like, whoops, I can't get to that because the discussion's not open. But that's basically just a text box, and you're going to type in kind of a summary of what everybody said online and in your face-to-face meeting. Student body summary, you're going to kind of summarize how the kids, what the kids said that they could do to help implement the interventions. Then, and then that's it. Here's the rubric item. We also put in review the task list. This is the task list from the preparation steps that you wrote last year. So as you can see, this is Fishers High School. They've done a wonderful job on their school improvement plan. So you can see, let's see, tomorrow's date, that tomorrow they're going to review co-teaching. And I can see, you know, the tasks and then the person responsible. So all the work that you did last year comes out in this task list. A lot of schools will just take this and publish or post it on the teacher's workroom, and they'll just check off the steps as they happen. So okay, and that's it. Okay, I'm going to pause here and answer any questions. And then we've got about 5 more minutes worth to do with the cycle or the update 1 schools, and we'll dismiss the update 2 schools. So any questions here, Tina? Has anybody typed in questions, or does anybody want to unmute themselves and jump in?
There aren't any typed ones yet.
Okay. Anybody want to jump in with a question? Okay.
Sue, this is Greg at Columbia Middle School in Logansport. How are you?
Hi, Greg.
My question is, we're in a real unique situation, and I talked to Tina about this earlier on. We are going to be in a completely different format next year, school configuration. So we are kind of wondering how we're going to do a school improvement plan for that for next year when we don't quite know exactly the details yet.
When you say different configuration, do you mean different grade levels?
For grade level, we will more than likely just be one grade level.
Okay.
6,
Okay.
7, 8.
And will you know that before January?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Yeah, I really don't see that being a problem. It's a good question. So what will...
It does only apply to us probably, so if you don't want to address it now, that's
Yeah,
fine.
no, it's a real quick answer. What we'll do is you'll just, when you update your school improvement plan second semester, you'll just update it for the students that are going to be in the building. So some of your root causes might change, your interventions might change. Sometimes when this happens, I don't know if this will be the case, we can talk later about it, but sometimes there will be a grade level that we don't have a new grade level that we don't have any data for. And in that case, we just make our best guesses when we write the school improvement plan, and then as we collect data, we can see if our guesses were on target. We have worked with schools that weren't even opened yet. We've worked with 3 or 4 schools that were just in the process of opening, but we met with all the teachers ahead of time, so when they opened, they had a school improvement plan already in place. So that was kind of cool. So yeah. Good question. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of how I'm thinking of it. However, we don't even know, we won't know our staff even yet. So we're kind of a brand new entity.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll have to, maybe you and Tina and I can do a brainstorm, and it sounds like we may need to do a lot of guessing, and maybe we'll just need to be flexible with deadlines, and because the deadlines will have to come after you can make some decisions. So yeah, so let's talk. Okay?
Thank you, Sue.
Okay. Okay, other questions? Appreciate that. Schools are, every school is different, and so we always have to kind of be flexible with the process and how that goes. Okay, if there's no other...
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Hi, this is Sherry from Morocco Elementary.
Hi, Sherry.
On the one portion that's due October 31st, you had said that we needed to designate whether we're focus priority or our state ISTEP scores are still embargoed, and so I don't anticipate they'll be unembargoed by that time. So did we just go on the previous year's status?
I think you have a couple of options. One could be to do that, to go on the previous year's status. We have had schools that were able to predict what they thought they were going to be and actually change the status based on their guess of what they thought it was going to be. So that might be an option as well. I would just kind of run your thoughts by Tina and kind of see what's best for you. Whatever we guess, when you do get the status, if we've guessed wrong, then we're going to have to quick make an adjustment to make sure that you meet all the requirements. But at this point, without that information, it's just going to be our best guess.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, we wish we had this information from DOE when we need it, but at least the school improvement plan's not due in March this year, so we're making progress. Other questions? Okay, that sounds good. Well, let's dismiss then the Cycle 2 schools, and if you have any questions later, call Tina as always, and you guys are so good at that, and Tina can answer your question and pull me in as we need. So, okay, so goodbye to the Cycle 2 schools, and I'm going to go on now to the Cycle 1 schools. Okay, so Cycle 1 schools, I'm going to try to cover this very quickly because I'd like to be finished in about 5 minutes. So you have some additional tasks to do. One is to determine the format for your student body discussion, and then to convene the School Improvement Council. The one thing that I want to say about the council, and I can't emphasize this enough, that council and the discussions that you have with that council really are rich, and they really improve the quality of your school improvement plan. So you'll see in a minute that that council is going to end up being a large group, and we just want to say to you that we'll provide you with consensus building tools so that you'll be able to bring a large group to consensus quickly. And one aspect of that improvement council is we'd like you to require every single teacher in the building to be a member of your council. So that is really unique to our work, but we want every single teacher to have a voice. That's really important to the quality of our school improvement plans. So we want the eager beaver teachers there, we want the naysayer teachers there, we want the discouraged teachers there, the enthusiastic teachers there, good teachers, bad teachers. We just want all of them at the table. So we hope you're having face-to-face meetings, and all the teachers would come to those meetings. So you can, embed them into your professional development. You could do after-school, meetings, or however you do it. We have found that if it's an after-school meeting and it's not during contract hours, you can't require every teacher to come, and that's why we give you the two formats. You can talk face-to-face with the teachers that want to talk face-to-face, and then you can tell the others, during your prep period, during your contract hours, you need to go in and put your input into the system. So they won't be part of the discussion, but they'll have an opportunity to put their input in, to give you their thoughts. So that's really, really important. The other thing with having outside of contract meetings, we've had a lot of schools work with community organizations to create door prizes or, a dozen cookies for everybody. One of our schools actually had a business donate a refrigerator, and they had an auction or a drawing for the refrigerator during the council meeting. So we do want every single teacher to be required to be on the Improvement Council. So you'll need to think about how that works at your school. Then the other thing that we would like is for every single parent to be invited to be on the council. Again, we want this to be inclusive. We want parents of, that the parents that are always in your building. We want parents maybe that are never in your building. So we want all parents to be involved, and then you'll see that there's also a list of community organizations that we'd like to be at the table. The most important community organization is economic development. So I'd be kind of looking into what's the Economic Development Council in your county, and can you talk one of those folks into being on your council. Economic development folks or businesses get a lot of opportunities to impact material resources and very few opportunities to impact human resources. So most businesses will jump on the opportunity to be involved with your school in this way. If you're in elementary school, you can be talking about, this is your opportunity to recruit from or to impact the employees that you're going to have 10 years from now. So, okay, so let me go through real quickly in the online system. And I'm going to just scroll down or scroll up. So convene the Improvement Council. This is a really nice, I think it's one-page document on the council and what's behind it and how to do it. Tomorrow there will be a video on there as well. We're going to make it as soon as we close this video. To just give you some tips on recruiting your council. Research potential council members. If you open that up, it's a Word doc, but anytime we have found a statewide list of folks like Indiana Economic Development corporations. If you click this will give you, I think it's by county, all the counties, and then contact information for all of them. Indiana Academic Development Directory, Chambers of Commerce, the Indiana Partnership. So, so these are ideas if you don't know people locally where you could go to find some names. Okay, so invite council members. This will take you to some tools to help you do that. Upload the council invitation. So we need you to upload the invitation that's being sent out to all parents. We just want to make sure that all parents are, that we have evidence that all parents were invited to be part of the council. And then manage the council members. I'm going to click that. When that opens, and of course for Fishers High School we don't have council members yet, but you're going to be able to present a roster. You can contact the School Improvement Council by mail. This will give you an Excel spreadsheet with everybody's mailing address in it, or by email. And then you can invite school and council members. So if I click on that, I get a link. So basically, when you invite someone to be on your council, you're going to include in your email to join the school community council. Please go to this link. You'll be asked to enter our school's DOE number, which is, and then type that on there. On the next screen, please enter your contact information. So, and then here's the sample invitation to them. So this is what they'll get. Okay. Okay, and then as council members join, their information will appear here. You'll be able to edit it, or you'll be able to delete a council member there. Okay, so that's the council, and then review rubric items. Let's just look at that really quickly, and then basically we're going to close. On the council invitations, the written invitation addresses all teachers, parents, families, and community representatives. Written invitation addresses the purpose of the council, the responsibility of the School Improvement Council, and the written invitation includes the school's contact information. And okay, so that's the council. Okay, and then the only thing you have on student body discussions is just watch the video. Then I just wanted very quickly on the process tab, we're going to close in 1 minute. On the process tab, I'm sorry, wrong thing, on the manual tab, wanted to show you all of the resources we have to help you recruit your council members. So there's a recruitment video slides. There's a council member brainstorm tool. This lists all the different potential stakeholder groups in your community. There are a ton of them. And we want you to think about, do we have all of these stakeholder groups represented on our council? There's that research list. Council recruitment talking points. These are things that you might say when you call someone on the phone to ask them to be on your council. New council member letters. So a council member says, someone says, yes, I'll be on your council. Here's a sample of a letter or follow-up letter you can send them. And then this is a one-page flyer on SI2 that if you could be distributing this at a Kiwanis Club meeting or wherever. So yeah, so and then on the establish the student body, this is instructions for your student body point person to give them some ideas about how to create a structure for getting the student body input. Okay, really wanted to close before an hour. We're just 5 minutes over, so I apologize for that. Just a lot to cover this time. So good luck to everybody in kicking off your interventions, getting your council put together and convened for that first discussion, and then also having that first discussion with your student body. We know you're going to have a lot of questions this month. That's typical, and Tina is there ready to go. And then also before we close, the other thing I wanted to say to the Update 1 schools, you guys were phenomenal last year. We know that the time frame that you were given to do all of this work was really short, and the quality of work that you did, we were so pleased with. Everybody hit deadline. We were able to send DOE a letter that said that you've all met the requirements of PL 221, unless there, we've talked with you about some aspect, but we're just so pleased, and so pleased that you all have come back for the update 1 year. So very good. Let us know if you have concerns or questions, and we'll try to be as responsive as we can. You know, we do this together as a team with you. So, okay, thanks everybody, and I'll close, and we'll talk with everybody next month. Good luck in this work.